In this lecture, I am going to explain the Kirchhoff's voltage law. Coming to the definition of KVL, the algebraic sum of all the voltages in a closed circuit is equal to 0. Right? So, in order to write the KVL, what are the tips we are supposed to follow to write the proper KVL equation for any given circuit? The first thing is we need to identify the sources available. We need to identify the sources available in a given circuit, right? If the source is DC voltage source, then the terminals becomes positive and negative terminals. If the source is AC voltage source, suppose in the circuit there is a source like AC voltage source. There is a AC voltage source like this. So then the tip of the source becomes positive and the tail becomes negative terminal. Similarly, for DC current source or AC current source, the terminals, the tip becomes positive and the tail becomes negative terminal of the battery, right? So for the sources, these are the terminal notation we need to follow. Afterwards, we need to assign the current direction in the given circuit. Suppose there is a circuit, then the current direction in that circuit is either clockwise or anti-clockwise. That we will decide. Assign the current direction in the given circuit. In the circuit, there are number of passive elements, right? For the passive elements, the terminal at which the current is entering is denoted as the positive terminal, and the terminal at which the current is leaving, that becomes negative terminal. Suppose there is a passive resistor, passive terminals, one of the passive element is resistor. So here the resistor, if the current is entering into this if the current is entering into this resistor, then the entering terminal becomes the positive and the leaving terminal of this passive component is negative. Similarly, for inductor, if the current direction is like this, then this becomes positive and it is a negative terminal. If there is a capacitor, for the capacitor also depends on the current direction. The terminal at which the current is entering is positive terminal and the terminal at which the current is leaving is negative terminal. For any element, if we are moving from positive terminal to negative terminal in the circuit, then the voltage across that element is taken as negative voltage. In the circuit, suppose in the circuit we are moving from positive terminal to negative terminal, then the voltage across this particular element becomes negative voltage in the KVL. Similarly, if we are moving from negative terminal to positive terminal in the circuit across any element, then that voltage becomes positive voltage. So based on these rules, we will write the KVL equation for the given circuit. So the first step is identify the sources available in the given circuit. There is a DC voltage source. I will denote the positive and negative terminal of the battery, right? After the identification, we are supposed to assign the current direction in the loop. So this direction is also, the current is always coming from positive terminal of the battery and entering at negative terminal of the battery, right? So this is the current direction. Let us say the current is I. The next step is we will denote the polarities at each and every passive element in the circuit. So in this direction, if the current is entering at this point, so this point becomes positive terminal, and the current is leaving at this point and it becomes negative. Similarly for R2, the current entering point is positive terminal, leaving point is negative terminal, plus minus. Okay. Then what is the voltage across the resistor R1? The voltage across the resistor R1 is equal to the voltage drop at the R1. So the drop becomes the current through the resistor R1 into the resistance value. Here the current value is I. So the current is I into the resistance value is R1. So the drop is IR1. Here the drop is I into R1. At the R2, the drop is I into R2. At the R3, the drop is I into R3. So these are the steps. Before going to write the KVL, these are the steps we have to follow. Now it is easy for us to write the KVL. So just in the circuit, you just move in the direction of the current and write the voltages in the KVL. We are moving from negative terminal to positive terminal, right? So then this voltage is positive voltage in the KVL. So I am writing this as a plus V. And at the R1 we are moving from positive to negative, then this voltage becomes negative voltage, I into R1. Similarly, at R2 also we are moving from positive to negative, and it is I into R2, and minus I into R3, that is equal to 0. So this is the KVL equation for the given circuit.